Join me, human. Our mating could save my alien race. An alien girl's request. Jackson Riley wiped the sweat from his brow as he trudged across the crimson sands of Proxima Centauri b. 6 months into his solo expedition, he documented countless geological anomalies but nothing resembling life. Until now, the crash site appeared suddenly between two crystalline rock formations, a vessel unlike anything in Earth's aerospace catalogue. Its sleek opalescent hull reflected the light of the distant red sun, creating prismatic patterns across the desert floor. As he approached, a section of the craft shimmered and dissolved, revealing an entrance. "Hello?" Jackson called, his voice steady despite the hammering in his chest. "I'm a scientist from Earth, I mean no harm." Silence greeted him, but something pulled him forward. Intuition, or perhaps something more deliberate. The interior of the ship was surprisingly intact, with surfaces that seemed to pulse with a soft blue luminescence. Jackson ran his fingers along a console covered in unfamiliar symbols. They don't teach you how to read that at Space Academy. The voice, melodic and accented with unfamiliar cadences, froze Jackson in place. He turned slowly. She stood in a doorway that hadn't been there moments before. Humanoid, but unmistakably alien, her skin a luminous violet that seemed to shimmer with subtle iridescence. Two large almond-shaped eyes regarded him with curiosity, their irises shifting like miniature nebulae. Her figure was graceful, clothed in a form-fitting garment that resembled burnished silver, highlighting curves that were surprisingly human-like. "You speak English," Jackson managed, immediately feeling foolish. A smile curved her lips. "I speak many languages. Your neural patterns were simple to interpret." She moved closer, her movements fluid and elegant. "I am Lena. My people are called the Astrani." Jackson Riley, human, but you already knew that part. He found himself smiling back, his scientific mind racing to catalogue everything about her. "Your ship. There was a crash." Lena nodded, her expression dimming slightly. "A malfunction. During dimensional transit. Not critical, but beyond my ability to repair alone." Her eyes studied him with unexpected intensity. "Your arrival is fortuitous." "I can try to help," Jackson offered, already doubting his skills would be useful with such advanced technology. "Though I should warn you, I'm a geologist, not an engineer." "It's not your engineering skills I need, Jackson Riley." She gestured for him to follow her deeper into the ship. They entered what appeared to be a living space, with furniture that seemed to grow organically from the floor. On a central table, a holographic display showed a star system Jackson didn't recognize, with one planet highlighted and pulsing an urgent red. "This is my homeworld, Astrania," Lena said softly. "Or rather, what remains of it." The hologram zoomed in, revealing a planet whose surface was riddled with massive fissures, its atmosphere swirling with violent storms. "Stellar radiation from our dying sun," she explained. "It altered our genetic structure over generations. We adapted, but at a cost." Her eyes met his, galaxies swimming in their depths. "Reproductive compatibility among our kind diminished with each generation. Now we stand at the edge of extinction." Jackson's scientific curiosity battled with growing concern. "I'm sorry, but how does this involve me?" Lena approached him slowly, close enough that he could sense a subtle fragrance like night blooming flowers. "Our scientists discovered something remarkable before the end. Human DNA, specifically from your region of Earth, contains compatible markers with our own. A union between our species could potentially save mine." "A union?" Jackson repeated, his mouth suddenly dry. "Yes." Lena's hand reached out, hesitating just short of touching his face. "Not merely biological, though that is part of it. A true convergence of beings." The implications crashed over Jackson like a wave. "This wasn't first contact, this was a proposal. I know this is unexpected," Lena continued, her voice gentle. "But when my ship crashed on this planet and I sensed a human presence, your presence, I felt for the first time in my life that hope might not be lost." Outside, Proxima Centauri's light was fading, casting the crimson desert in deepening shadow. In the dim blue glow of the ship, Lena's skin seemed to phosphoresce gently, her eyes holding reflections of distant stars. Jackson found himself speechless, torn between scientific fascination, disbelief, and something else, something inexplicable, drawing him toward this mysterious being from beyond the stars. "I need time to process this," he finally said. Lena nodded, a smile of understanding crossing her face. "Time is something I can offer, but not too much, Jackson Riley. Some choices in the universe come only once, like stars aligning for a perfect moment." As the alien suns set beyond the horizon, Jackson realized his solitary mission had just become something far more complex, and perhaps far more important than he could have ever imagined. The twin moons of Proxima Centauri b cast silvery light through the translucent ceiling of Lena's ship. Jackson sat cross-legged on what appeared to be a meditation cushion, watching as Lena manipulated a three-dimensional star chart with graceful gestures of her slender fingers. 3 days had passed since their first encounter, 3 days of careful conversation, scientific exchange, and growing fascination. Jackson had established a makeshift camp near the ship, returning to his own quarters at night, but spending his days learning about Lena and her civilization. "The Astrani evolved alongside our binary stars," Lena explained, expanding a section of the holographic display. "Our bodies absorbed and processed stellar radiation in ways your scientists might consider impossible." Jackson nodded, mesmerized by both the information and the way her violet skin seemed to pulse with subtle bioluminescence when she concentrated. "Like photosynthesis, but with stellar radiation instead of sunlight." "Similar, though far more complex." She smiled at his understanding. "This adaptation became our strength and ultimately our downfall. When our primary star began its death cycle, the radiation changed. What once nourished us began to alter us at a genetic level. And that's when the reproductive compatibility issues began." Lena's expression grew solemn. "Yes, within 3 generations, birth rates fell by 90%. By my generation, natural conception became virtually impossible." She waved her hand, and the display shifted to show complex genetic structures. "Our scientists discovered that human DNA contains certain markers, resilient adaptive sequences that could potentially stabilize our genetic degradation." Jackson studied the floating strands of DNA, his scientific mind engaged despite the personal implications. "But why me specifically? There are billions of humans." "Not all human DNA would be compatible," Lena said, moving closer to him. Her proximity sent an inexplicable warmth through his chest. "Only those from specific ancestry groups. Your genetic profile, which I scanned when you first entered my ship, shows optimal compatibility." "You scanned my DNA without asking?" Jackson raised an eyebrow, though he found himself more intrigued than offended. "My apologies." A faint purple blush colored her cheeks. "It's standard protocol for Astrani ships to analyze any new life form that comes aboard. I didn't expect to find—" She hesitated. "A match." Jackson stood and paced the small chamber. "So this is purely biological? A genetic necessity for your species' survival?" Lena rose in a fluid motion and approached him. For the first time, she reached out and touched his arm. A tingling sensation spread from the point of contact, like gentle electricity. "Initially, yes," she admitted. "But our people believe that genetics and spirit are intertwined. Our true union must be one of hearts and minds, not merely bodies." Her eyes with their nebula-like depths held his gaze. "I would never ask this of you otherwise." Jackson felt something shift within him, a recognition of her sincerity. "How would it work, this union?" "A bonding ceremony followed by genetic transference," Lena explained. "The resulting offspring would carry both human and Astrani traits, creating a new lineage that could revitalize my people." "Children?" Jackson hadn't considered this aspect fully. "Half human, half Astrani children?" "Yes, they would be the first of a new generation, a bridge between our worlds." She moved to a small alcove and returned with what looked like a crystal vial containing swirling silver liquid. "This is a genetic stabilizer. It would prepare your body for compatibility with mine." Jackson took the vial, turning it in his hands. The liquid inside seemed to respond to his touch, shifting patterns like quicksilver. "This is a lot to take in," he said finally. I understand. Lena stepped back, giving him space. You have your own life on Earth, your own dreams and aspirations. I am asking you to consider abandoning those for an uncertain future, with a species you've only just discovered. Her words hung in the air between them. Jackson thought of his life back home, his research position at the university, his small apartment, the colleagues who respected his work but knew little of the man behind it. He had volunteered for this solo expedition, partly to escape the emptiness that had been growing within him. What about you, Lena? He asked suddenly. Am I just a genetic solution to you, or is there more? Her expression softened. When I first detected your approach, you were indeed just that, a potential solution. But these past days... She looked away, then back at him with newfound vulnerability. I find myself drawn to you in ways I didn't anticipate. Your curiosity, your compassion, your way of seeing the universe, they call to something within me. Outside, a meteorite streaked across the crimson sky, momentarily illuminating the landscape. Jackson set down the vial. I need to think about this, he said. Not just the science of it, but everything else too. Lena nodded. Of course, but there is something else you should know. She touched a panel on the wall, and a section of the ship became transparent, revealing the engine room. At its center, a crystalline core pulsed with fading light. My ship's power core is degrading. Within 14 of your Earth days, it will fail completely. When that happens, I must either depart this system or remain stranded here forever. Jackson understood the unspoken message. His decision had a deadline. Tomorrow, he said. Show me more about your people, not just your genetics or your technology. Show me who the Astrani really are. For the first time, Lena smiled without reservation, and the luminescence of her skin brightened like dawn breaking across an alien horizon. I would like that very much, Jackson Riley. As he returned to his camp that night, the twin moons overhead seemed to watch him with knowing eyes. Somewhere beyond those moons, beyond this star system, lay Earth and everything familiar. Yet here, on this crimson world, something entirely new beckoned, something that both terrified and exhilarated him in equal measure. Morning brought a dust storm that painted the sky burnt orange. Jackson secured his camp equipment and hurried to Lena's ship, the fine crimson particles stinging his exposed skin. The ship's entrance recognized him now, dissolving into an archway of light as he approached. Inside, he found Lena in what she called the memory chamber, a circular room where the walls themselves seemed alive with flowing images. She wore a different garment today, a deep blue that contrasted beautifully with her violet skin, cut in a style that reminded Jackson of ancient Greek designs. Good morning, she greeted him. I thought today I might show you Astrania as it once was. She pressed her palm to a section of the wall and the entire room transformed. Suddenly they stood on a cliff overlooking a vast city built of crystalline spires that caught the light of twin suns, one golden, one blue. The architecture was breathtaking, structures that seemed to defy gravity, with gardens spiraling around towering buildings and waterfalls flowing upward. This was Lyria, the capital city of my province, Lena said, her voice tinged with both pride and sorrow. This recording was made 50 years ago, before the worst of the stellar degradation began. Jackson turned slowly, taking in the alien landscape. It's beautiful, he breathed, like nothing I've ever imagined. Come, Lena said, taking his hand. The simple touch sent that now familiar electricity through him. Let me show you more. The scene shifted as they walked through the illusory city. They passed markets where merchants traded in glowing crystals and foods of impossible colors. They witnessed a ceremony where Astrani youth, their skin tones, ranging from deep indigo to pale lavender, performed a synchronized dance that left trails of light in the air. The ascension ceremony, Lena explained. When we reach maturity, our connection to the stellar energies strengthens. The dance celebrates this transition. Did you perform this dance? Jackson asked. A smile touched her lips. I did. I was known for my skill, actually. She looked away, suddenly shy. Perhaps I will show you someday. Throughout the day, Lena guided Jackson through visions of her world, its art, its science, its customs. He learned how Astrani children were taught to commune with the stars, how their relationships formed around compatible energy patterns rather than what humans would consider romantic attraction, how they celebrated and mourned and created. During a pause in their tour, they sat in a simulated garden beneath trees with silver leaves that chimed softly in the breeze. "Your civilization achieved so much," Jackson said. "It seems wrong that it should end." "All things have their time," Lena replied, though her eyes betrayed her sadness. "But yes, I believe we still have much to offer the universe." She hesitated, then added, "There are others like me scattered across the stars, seeking compatible beings. I am not the last Astrani, merely one of the last." "How many of your people remain?" "Perhaps 1,000, spread across 20 vessels. We maintain quantum communication, though the distances make it infrequent." Jackson considered this. "So even if our union were successful, it would only be one small part of saving your species." "Yes, but a crucial part." Lena's gaze was earnest. "Each viable genetic pairing increases our chances exponentially." They fell silent, watching the illusory suns set over the crystal city. Jackson found himself imagining what it would be like to actually walk those streets, to live among the Astrani, to be part of their world. "Tell me something personal," he said suddenly. "Not about your people, but about you. What do you love? What makes you laugh? What are you afraid of?" Lena seemed surprised by the questions, but her expression softened. "I love music, the way sound can create emotion across all species. I collect melodies from every world I visit." She smiled shyly. "I've been recording Earth's radio signals since entering your solar system. Your classical music resonates with me deeply." "And laughter?" Jackson prompted. "The unexpected delights me, patterns that break in surprising ways. And—" She looked embarrassed. "There is an Astrani game of logic, where players intentionally make absurd connections between unrelated concepts. I was known among my friends for my particularly ridiculous solutions." Jackson grinned. "So you have a sense of humor. Is that surprising?" "No," he said, realizing it wasn't. "Not anymore." As for fears, Lena's luminescence dimmed slightly. "Beyond the obvious fear of my species' extinction, I fear isolation, to be the last of my kind, alone among stars that no longer nourish us." She looked at him with sudden vulnerability. "I fear that in seeking to save my people, I might pressure you into a choice you would regret." Jackson felt something shift inside him at her honesty. Without thinking, he reached out and took her hand. Her fingers intertwined with his naturally, as if they'd done this 1,000 times. "I'm still processing all of this," he admitted. "But I want you to know that I see you, Lena, not just as an alien or a scientific marvel, or even as a potential partner. I see you as a person with hopes and fears and humor and beauty." The simulated world around them faded, returning to the plain walls of the memory chamber, but neither of them moved to break their connected hands. "The storm has passed," Lena said softly, though neither had noticed when the howling winds had ceased. Jackson nodded but didn't move. "Tell me more about the bonding ceremony," he said. "If, hypothetically, I were to consider it, what would it entail?" Lena's eyes widened slightly, the nebulae within them swirling faster. "It is both simple and profound. A mutual exchange of genetic material, yes, but also of energy and consciousness. For a brief moment, we would experience each other's minds, each other's hearts. It would create a connection that transcends physical space." "That sounds intense." "It is, but also beautiful." Her free hand rose hesitantly, hovering near his face. "I could show you a glimpse, if you wish, a small taste of what it might be like." Jackson's heart raced, but he nodded. "Show me." Her fingertips brushed his temple with feather-light pressure, and suddenly his mind exploded with sensation, colors he'd never seen, emotions without names, the feeling of stellar energy flowing. Through veins, memories of a childhood beneath twin suns. For a moment he wasn't Jackson Riley, human geologist. He was something more, something that contained both himself and Lena in a union that defied explanation. Then it was over, and he was gasping, his forehead resting against hers. That was... Words failed him. Only a fraction of what the true bonding would be, Lena whispered. As twilight descended over the crimson desert, Jackson realized the decision before him was transforming. What had begun as an impossible request from an alien stranger was becoming something he could no longer dismiss as simple scientific curiosity. For the first time, he allowed himself to consider that perhaps this encounter wasn't mere chance, that something greater than either of them had brought a lone human and a desperate Astrani together on this remote world, and for the first time the thought didn't terrify him. The 11th day dawned with an unsettling stillness across the crimson plains. Jackson emerged from his tent to find 3 suns in the sky, a rare astronomical alignment that Lena had warned him about. The extra radiation meant staying indoors, so he gathered his research notes and headed for the ship. Inside, he found Lena in the engine room, her hands moving through a holographic interface as she monitored the failing power core. Its once brilliant blue light now pulsed erratically, casting shadows that danced across her concerned face. "It's degrading faster than I calculated," she said without looking up. "We may have only 2 days now, not 3. The news landed heavily between them. Over the past week, their relationship had evolved into something neither could have predicted. They'd shared stories, beliefs, dreams. He'd taught her Earth card games. She'd shown him how to manipulate the ship's gravitational field to float weightlessly. They'd laughed together, grown comfortable in each other's silence, and gradually, inevitably drawn closer. "Can it be stabilized?" Jackson asked, setting down his pack. "Temporarily, but the core itself is failing at the atomic level." She turned to face him, her nebula eyes solemn. "Jackson, I need to know your decision. Not just for the practical matter of departure, but because..." She hesitated. "Because whatever happens, these days with you have meant more than I can express." Jackson leaned against a console, feeling the weight of the moment. "I've been thinking about something you said about the Astrani, that you believe genetics and spirit are intertwined." "Yes, we call it stellar resonance, the idea that our physical form and our inner essence are reflections of the same cosmic pattern. On Earth we have similar concepts, different words but the same intuition that we're more than just our biology." He stepped closer to her. "I've been approaching this whole situation like a scientist, analyzing data, weighing outcomes, looking for logical conclusions. And what has your analysis determined?" There was a slight tremor in her voice. "That logic isn't enough." He reached for her hand, now a familiar gesture between them. "I keep thinking about my life on Earth. It was comfortable, respected, but also lonely in ways I'd stopped noticing." Lena's luminescence brightened slightly, but she remained silent, letting him continue. "Then I think about what you're offering. Not just the biological union, but the chance to be part of something extraordinary, to help preserve a civilization that might otherwise be lost, to explore stars I've only seen through telescopes." He took a deep breath. "To be with someone who sees the universe with the same wonder that I do." The core pulsed, casting them in momentary darkness before the emergency lights compensated. "But there's something else to consider," Jackson said, his expression growing serious. "The distress beacon from my research station. It's been 3 days since I checked it." Concern flashed across Lena's face. "Has there been a problem?" "I don't know, but I should verify that everything's functioning properly before we make any final decisions. The station has communication equipment that could reach Earth. If I'm going to disappear with you, I should at least leave some explanation." Lena nodded. "Of course. When will you go?" "Now, while the radiation levels are still manageable. It's a 4-hour journey each way." He squeezed her hand. "I'll return by nightfall and we can prepare for whatever comes next." The look she gave him was filled with such hope and affection that Jackson felt momentarily overwhelmed. Before he could overthink it, he leaned forward and pressed his lips gently to hers. The contact sent a cascade of sensations through him, warmth, electricity, and something deeper, like distant stars calling to each other across the void. When they parted, Lena's skin was glowing brilliantly, her eyes wide with surprise and joy. "That," Jackson said with a smile, "was a human tradition, a promise of return." "I like your traditions," she whispered. The research station stood exactly as Jackson had left it, its solar panels gleaming under the triple suns. Inside, the familiar confines of human technology, all hard angles and practical designs, felt strangely alien after his time aboard Lena's ship. The distress beacon was flashing urgently. Jackson activated the console and felt his stomach drop as he read the message. Emergency extraction protocol initiated. Hostile activity detected in sector. All personnel evacuate to emergency coordinates. Extraction vessel ETA, 13 hours. The timestamp indicated the message had arrived just hours after his first encounter with Lena. Hostile activity, Jackson muttered, scanning for details. The message contained coordinates for extraction, on the opposite side of the planet. A second message clarified, unidentified vessels detected in orbit. Possible pirate activity. Do not attempt communication. Jackson's mind raced. Pirates in this system? It had to be a coincidence, but the timing. He activated the station's small telescope and aimed it toward the coordinates indicated in the message. The magnification was limited, but sufficient to show what appeared to be a landing site being prepared. A flat area cleared of rocks, with marker beacons establishing a perimeter. The extraction was real. In less than a day, a ship from Earth would arrive to evacuate him from potential danger. Jackson sank into his chair. The decision, before him suddenly concrete, stay with Lena, leave Earth behind, and embark on an interstellar journey to help save a dying race. Or return to Earth, to his research, to the life he'd known, safe, predictable, and achingly empty. As he stared at the blinking console, his eyes fell on a small rock sample he'd collected his first day on this planet. He'd been so excited then, cataloguing mineral compositions, believing he was making important discoveries. Now those discoveries seemed trivial compared to what he'd found in Lena's ship. With sudden clarity, Jackson knew what he had to do. He began typing rapidly, composing a message to his research director back on Earth. He explained about the Astrani, about Lena, about the incredible opportunity he'd been given. He attached his research data, knowing it would be valuable even without him to present it. Then he recorded a brief video message for his sister, the only family he had left. "I found something extraordinary," he told her, trying to convey the wonder and certainty he felt. "Someone extraordinary. I don't expect you to understand, but I need you to know that I'm happy. Happier than I've ever been." As he finished, transferring his research to the station's database, a distant rumble shook the building. Jackson rushed to the window in time to see a spacecraft descending through the atmosphere, but not toward the extraction coordinates. It was heading directly for Lena's ship. Its design was angular, predatory, nothing like Lena's elegant vessel. Pirates. They must have detected her ship's energy signature. Panic seized him. He grabbed his emergency pack, a handheld communications device, and ran for the rover. As he sped across the crimson landscape, pushing the vehicle to its limits, one thought consumed him. Please let me not be too late. The pirate vessel hovered above Lena's ship like a raptor eyeing prey, its metallic hull reflecting the setting suns in blood-red glints. Jackson abandoned the rover behind a ridge and continued on foot, staying low to avoid detection. Through his binoculars, he could see 3 figures in environmental suits approaching Lena's ship, carrying what appeared to be cutting tools. They were after her technology, the advanced propulsion systems, the gravitational manipulators, perhaps even the genetic research she carried. The pirates couldn't know there was a living Astrani aboard, or if they did, that knowledge would make their prize even more valuable. Jackson's handheld comm unit crackled to life with a message from the extraction team. "Riley, we've detected your rover movement. Return to extraction coordinates immediately. Hostile vessel has landed near your investigation site." He silenced the device. There was no going back now. Moving carefully between rock formations, Jackson circled around to approach from the opposite side of the pirate landing party. He needed to reach Lena, warn her, help her escape. But as he drew closer, he saw that the entrance to her ship was sealed, not dissolved into welcoming light as it had been for him. She was protecting herself. Good. But it wouldn't hold against the pirates' cutting equipment for long. Jackson needed a distraction. In his pack he found the emergency flares from his research station. With careful aim he launched one high over the pirate ship, where it burst into brilliant red light. As the pirates turned toward the unexpected signal, Jackson sprinted for Lena's ship. "Lena," he called through his comm unit, hoping she was monitoring external frequencies. "It's Jackson, let me in." For a heart-stopping moment nothing happened. Then a small section of the hull shimmered and created an opening just large enough for him to dive through. It sealed instantly behind him. Inside he found Lena at the ship's control interface, her normally luminous skin dim with fear. "Pirates," she said, her voice tight. "They've been tracking Astrani ships across 3 systems. They sell our technology to the highest bidders. We need to leave, now." Jackson moved to her side. "Can the core last long enough for an escape?" "Barely. I've been trying to initiate launch, but the gravitational thrusters are damaged from the crash. We're grounded unless—" Her eyes widened suddenly. "Unless we complete the bonding." "What? How would that help?" "The ship responds to Astrani neural patterns. With the core failing, it's operating at minimal capacity. But a completed bond between us would create a stronger neural signature, one that might be enough to override the damaged systems." Outside, they heard the whine of cutting tools beginning to work on the hull. "We don't have much time," Lena said, her eyes meeting his with urgent intensity. "Jackson, I know this isn't how either of us imagined it, but I need to know, is this what you want? Not just to escape, but everything else?" In that moment, with danger pressing in from all sides, Jackson found absolute clarity. "Yes," he said without hesitation. "I was coming back to tell you. I choose this, I choose you." Relief and joy transformed Lena's face. She took his hands and led him quickly to the center of the command chamber, where the floor began to glow with intricate patterns of light. "The bonding circle," she explained, positioning him opposite her. "We stand facing each other. When the connection forms, don't fight it. Let it flow through you, through us both." The pirates' cutting tools were making progress. A section of the outer hull began to glow red with heat. "Now," Lena said, extending her hands, palms up. Jackson placed his hands over hers and immediately felt the familiar electric sensation, but stronger now, rushing up his arms and throughout his body. Lena's eyes, those beautiful galaxy eyes, locked with his, and then there was no distinction between them. He was Lena, feeling the stellar radiation that had once nourished her people, now a poison slowly killing them. He felt her hope when she detected human DNA, her fear of eternal solitude, her growing affection for the curious Earth scientist who asked such thoughtful questions. And she was Jackson, experiencing his childhood wonder at the night sky, his drive to explore, his loneliness amid academic success, and his newfound certainty that meeting her was the most important moment of his life. Around them, the ship hummed with renewed energy. The failing core stabilized, glowing with fresh purpose. The neural connection between them fed power to the ship's systems in ways that defied Earth physics. "It's working," Lena's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. "The gravitational thrusters are responding." The ship shuddered as it began to break free from the planet's surface. Outside, the pirates scrambled back toward their vessel. Slowly, the bond between them gentled from overwhelming intensity to a warm, constant presence. Not a merging of minds anymore, but a permanent connection, like a new sense that allowed each to feel the other's presence. As Proxima Centauri B fell away beneath them, Jackson found he could think clearly again, though he could still sense Lena's emotions alongside his own. That was, he struggled to find words. "The beginning," Lena finished for him, her luminescence brighter than he'd ever seen it. "Our beginning." Through the view screen, they watched the pirate vessel grow smaller, unable to match the Astrani ship's acceleration. Beyond it, the extraction ship from Earth was just becoming visible, the life Jackson was leaving behind. "Will you regret it?" Lena asked softly, sensing his momentary melancholy. Jackson turned to her, taking in the violet beauty of her skin, the depth of her eyes, and the gentle presence he now felt in his mind, a presence that somehow made him feel more complete, not less himself. "No," he said with certainty, Every explorer dreams of discovering something that changes everything. I just never expected it would be someone instead of something. The ship's systems had stabilized, the core now pulsing with steady light. On the navigation display, a course was already plotted to a distant star, where, according to Lena, other Astrani awaited. Their journey would take months, but they would not be alone. "There's an Earth custom," Jackson said, drawing her close as the stars streaked past them. "When two people commit to a shared future, they seal it with a kiss." Lena smiled, the nebulae in her eyes swirling with joy. "I believe we've established that I like Earth customs." As their lips met, the bond between them resonated with possibility, not just for themselves, but for two civilizations that might now have a future together. Somewhere in the vast cosmos ahead, a new world awaited them, one where the children of stars and Earth would write the next chapter of both their species. The Astrani ship accelerated to faster-than-light travel, leaving behind the Crimson Planet, where two souls from different worlds had found each other across the starlit void, a convergence that would ripple through the cosmos for generations to come.